I saw my husband's watch on a stranger at the wake. 5 minutes later, my phone started ringing. The Omega Seamaster caught the light as the man reached for a glass of wine from the server's tray. That distinctive blue face, the subtle scratch across the crystal from when Marcus had dropped it during Zara's college graduation, the custom engraving on the band that I'd had done for our 20th anniversary. Forever yours, D. It was Marcus's watch. The watch he was supposedly wearing when the boat exploded off Martha's Vineyard 3 weeks ago. The watch that should have been at the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean, along with my husband's body. But there it was, on the wrist of a white man I'd never seen before, standing in my sister's living room in Brooklyn, eating funeral food and making small talk with my cousins like he belonged there. The wake was supposed to be closure. We'd had the memorial service that morning at Metropolitan AME Church, 200 people coming to say goodbye to Marcus Thompson, beloved principal of Dunbar High School, devoted husband, father of 2, pillar of the D.C. community. Now the inner circle was at my sister Camille's house, the July heat making everyone glisten despite the air conditioning, sharing stories and covered dishes and grief. Except my grief had just transformed into something else entirely. I stood frozen by the kitchen doorway, watching this stranger, tall, sandy-haired, maybe 45, wearing a decent but not expensive suit, casually check the time on my dead husband's watch. My hands started shaking so badly I had to set down my plate of untouched potato salad before I dropped it. "Aunt Rhonda, you okay?" My niece Shayla appeared at my elbow, concern written across her 23-year-old face. "You look like you've seen a ghost." Had I? Was Marcus dead or not? The Coast Guard had found debris from the boat, some personal effects, but no body. They'd said that wasn't unusual with explosions at sea, the currents, the sharks, the vastness of the ocean. We'd accepted it, had a service without a casket, tried to move forward, but that watch, that damn watch. "I need some air," I managed, moving toward the back door. That's when my phone started ringing. Unknown number, but the area code was 508, Massachusetts, Cape Cod area, where Marcus had supposedly died. I answered on the third ring, stepping onto Camille's deck. "Hello? Mrs. Thompson?" A woman's voice, professional but nervous. "My name is Detective Sarah Brennan with the Barnstable Police Department. I'm sorry to call during your husband's wake, but we need to speak with you urgently." "About what?" "We've had a development in your husband's case. When can you come to Massachusetts?" "What kind of development?" A pause. "Ma'am, we found something that suggests your husband's death might not be what it appeared to be." I looked through the sliding glass door at the stranger wearing Marcus's watch, now talking to my brother-in-law Robert, laughing at something like they were old friends. "I think," I said slowly, "you might be right. Can you come tomorrow?" "I'll drive up tonight." After I hung up, I went back inside, my mind racing but my movements deliberate. I couldn't confront the stranger, not yet. If Marcus was alive, if he'd faked his death, then this man was part of it somehow. I needed to be smart. I found my daughter Zara in the corner with her boyfriend Devin, both home from Howard for the summer, now for their father's funeral. My son Malik was in Chicago, couldn't get leave from his residency program for the wake, only the funeral. They'd grieved hard, these children who'd adored their father. "Baby," I said quietly to Zara, "I need you to do something for me without asking questions." She straightened, recognizing my teacher voice, the one that meant business. "What's wrong? See that white man by the fireplace? Take his picture without being obvious about it." "Mom, what?" "Please, trust me." Zara was smart, subtle. She posed for a selfie with Devin that happened to catch the stranger perfectly in the background. She sent it to my phone without a word, but her eyes were full of questions. I circulated through the room, accepting condolences, playing the grieving widow while my insides churned. The stranger stayed for another 40 minutes, ate Marcus's favorite aunt's mac and cheese, signed the memory book, then left. I memorized his face, his gait, the way he favored his left knee slightly when he walked. As soon as I could leave without causing alarm, I did. Told Camille I had a headache, needed to lie down. Instead, I drove home to our house in Fort Lincoln, threw clothes in a bag, and started driving north on I-95. The 5-hour drive to Cape Cod gave me too much time to think. Marcus and I had been married 26 years. We'd built a life together in D.C. raised two beautiful children, weathered his transition from teaching to administration, supported each other through aging parents and career changes and all the mundane challenges of a long marriage. We weren't perfect, what marriage is, but we were solid, or so I'd thought. He'd gone to Martha's Vineyard for a long weekend, a fishing trip with his cousin Jerome. Except Jerome had called the morning of the accident to say he couldn't make it, food poisoning. Marcus had gone anyway, said he needed the time alone on the water to decompress after a brutal school year. The boat had exploded 12 miles offshore. Coast Guard said it was probably a fuel leak, a spark. Boom. Happened more often than people thought with older boats. Except now his watch was on a stranger's wrist at his own wake. If you're already feeling that cold creep of dread, that realization that death might be just another lie someone told you, stay with me, because this story is about to reveal truths that will make you question everything you think you know about the people you love. I reached Hyannis at 2 a.m., checked into a Holiday Inn under my maiden name, Parker, and paid cash. Paranoid? Maybe. But if Marcus was alive, if he'd staged his own death, then I didn't know what was real anymore or who might be watching. Detective Brennan met me at the police station at 8 a.m. She was younger than her voice had suggested, maybe early 30s, with the kind of tired eyes that said she'd seen too much. Mrs. Thompson, thank you for coming so quickly. Before we begin, I need to ask, have you noticed anything unusual since your husband's death? Any strange contacts? Unexpected financial transactions? Anything out of the ordinary? There was a man at the wake yesterday wearing my husband's watch. The watch he supposedly was wearing when he died. Her eyes sharpened. Can you describe this man? I showed her the photo Zara had taken. She studied it, then turned to her computer, typing rapidly. Mrs. Thompson, what I'm about to show you might be disturbing. She turned the monitor toward me. Security footage from a marina in Provincetown, dated 2 days after Marcus's supposed death. The timestamp read 3:47 a.m. A man was walking along the dock, baseball cap pulled low, but his face visible for just a moment as he passed under a light. It was Marcus, my husband, alive, walking calmly along a dock when he should have been dead in the ocean. That's not all, Detective Brennan said gently. She pulled up another image. Marcus at an ATM in Wellfleet, withdrawing cash. Another of him at a gas station in Orleans, filling up a car I didn't recognize. We started investigating after an anonymous tip came in yesterday. Someone sent us these images and suggested we look into your husband's death more carefully. Who sent them? We don't know. The email was routed through multiple proxy servers. But Mrs. Thompson, there's more. We've discovered your husband had several accounts you might not have known about. She showed me bank records. Accounts in Marcus's name but with addresses I didn't recognize, containing more money than a high school principal should have. Much more. Almost $300,000 across various accounts. Where did this money come from? We're still investigating, but it appears to have been deposited in regular increments over the past 3 years. Always just under the reporting threshold. 3 years. 3 years of secrets. 3 years of lies. There's something else, Detective Brennan said. The boat that exploded? Your husband didn't own it. It was registered to a shell company based in Delaware. The actual owner appears to be a man named Craig Hoffman. She pulled up a driver's license photo. It was the man from the wake, the man wearing Marcus's watch. He's some kind of fixer, she explained. Helps people disappear, create new identities. He's been on our radar, but we've never had enough to charge him with anything. So Marcus hired him to fake his death? It appears so, but the question is why? What was your husband running from, Mrs. Thompson? I thought about our life, looking for cracks I'd missed. Marcus had been stressed the last few months, but I'd attributed it to work. Dunbar was a challenging school, budget cuts, violence in the neighborhood affecting the students. He'd been working late, taking calls at odd hours, but that wasn't unusual for a principal. Or was it? I need to go home, I said. Search his things, figure out what I missed. Mrs. Thompson, if your husband faked his death, if he's involved in something criminal, you could be in danger. Is there somewhere safe you can stay? I thought about it. If Marcus was alive, he'd eventually figure out I knew. But where could I go that he wouldn't find me? We'd been together since college. He knew everyone I knew, every place I'd run to. "I'll be careful," I said. Detective Brennan gave me her card. "Call me if you find anything. And Mrs. Thompson, be very careful who you trust. If your husband went to these lengths to disappear, he had help. People close to you might be involved." The drive back to D.C. was a blur. I kept thinking about moments from our marriage, looking for signs. The weekend trips for education conferences that maybe weren't conferences. The late-night phone calls he'd take in the garage. The way he'd been jumpy lately, checking windows, double-locking doors. When I got home, our house felt different. Same brick colonial we'd bought 15 years ago, same furniture, same photos on the walls. But now it all felt like a stage set. Props in a play I didn't know I was in. I started in his home office. Marcus was organized, meticulous. One of the things I'd loved about him. Everything had a place, a system. But now I wondered if that organization was about hiding things in plain sight. I found the first clue in a hollowed-out book on his shelf, The Souls of Black Folk by W.E.B. Du Bois. Inside was a burner phone and a passport. The passport had Marcus's photo, but the name was different. Malcolm Price. The phone had one number saved in it. I called it. "Jesus, Marcus, where the hell have you been?" A man's voice, angry, scared. "You were supposed to check in 3 days ago." "Is it done?" I hung up without speaking. "Is it done? Is what done?" I kept searching. Behind his framed diploma from Howard was an envelope with cash, 20,000 in hundreds. Under the bottom drawer of his filing cabinet was a gun I didn't know he owned, loaded with the serial number filed off. My husband, the high school principal. My husband, the community leader. My husband, the... what? Criminal? Spy? Who the hell had I been married to? My phone rang. Zara. "Mom, where are you? Aunt Camille says you left last night and haven't answered her calls." "I'm home, baby. I just needed some time alone." "Are you okay? You were acting strange at the wake." "I'm fine, just processing." "Mom, who was that man? The one you had me photograph?" I paused. My children didn't deserve lies, but did they deserve this truth? "I don't know yet," I said, "but I'm going to find out." After I hung up, I went to our bedroom, looked through Marcus's closet more carefully. That's when I noticed it. His lucky golf shirt was missing. The ugly orange polo I'd tried to throw away a dozen times, but he always rescued it. He'd worn it every time he played, said it helped his game. Superstitious fool, except he'd supposedly been going fishing, not golfing, when he died. I checked his golf bag. His favorite putter was gone too. I sat on our bed, trying to make sense of it. Marcus was alive. He'd faked his death with the help of a professional. He had a false identity, hidden money, a gun. Someone was expecting him to check in, to confirm something was done, and he'd taken his golf clothes. Where would Marcus go to play golf if he was supposed to be dead? Then I remembered. 3 years ago, when the mysterious money started, Marcus had gone to a golf resort in South Carolina for a long weekend with some fraternity brothers. He'd come back talking about how perfect it was, how he'd love to retire there someday. Hilton Head. It was a long shot, but it was something. I booked a flight to Savannah for the next morning, then called in sick to work. I was supposed to be back at my job as an AP English teacher at Wilson High next week, but they'd understand. My husband had just died after all. That night, I couldn't sleep in our bed. Couldn't stop imagining Marcus next to me all those years, planning his escape, lying about everything. I moved to the couch, but even there, surrounded by our life together, I felt like a stranger in my own home. At 3 a.m., my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Stop looking, or you'll join him." My blood went cold. Join him where? In hiding or in death? I called Detective Brennan immediately. "Someone just threatened me," I said. "We'll send someone to watch your house, Mrs. Thompson? What aren't you telling me? Where are you planning to go?" "I think he might be in Hilton Head. He loved it there." "Don't go alone. Let us handle this. He's my husband. I need to see him, to understand why. If he's dangerous?" "He's not dangerous. At least, not to me." But even as I said it, I wondered if it was true. The man I thought I knew wouldn't hurt me. But that man wouldn't have faked his death either. The next morning, I drove to the airport through streets I'd traveled for 20 years, past the school where Marcus had worked, past the church where we'd been married, past the park where we'd taught our children to ride bikes. Every landmark was a memory, and every memory was now suspect. At the airport, I noticed a man who seemed to be watching me. Black, mid-40s, professional-looking, but trying too hard to seem casual. When I moved to a different gate area, he followed. When I ducked into a bathroom, he was waiting when I came out. I confronted him. "Why are you following me?" He looked surprised, then resigned. "Mrs. Thompson, my name is Agent David Cole, FBI. We need to talk." FBI. My husband had brought the FBI into our lives. "Am I under arrest?" "No, ma'am. But your husband is involved in something much bigger than a faked death. We've been investigating him for 2 years." 2 years. The lies just kept multiplying. We went to a private room in the airport. Agent Cole laid out the truth, or at least part of it. "Your husband was recruited 3 years ago by a criminal organization that specializes in educational fraud. They use school administrators to funnel federal education funds into private accounts, create ghost students, fake programs, bill the government for services never provided. Your husband's school received an extra $2 million in federal funds over 3 years. Most of that money is now missing. $2 million. From a school that couldn't afford new textbooks. But Marcus loved that school. Those kids. Maybe he did, but he loved something else more, or feared something else more. We think they had leverage on him, something that made him cooperate. What kind of leverage? That's what we're trying to figure out. Mrs. Thompson, we know you weren't involved. We've been monitoring you for months. But now that he's faked his death, now that you know he's alive, you're our best chance of finding him. You want me to be bait. We want you to do what you're already doing. Look for your husband, but with our protection and support." I thought about it. Marcus had lied to me, stolen from children who needed every penny of that money, faked his death, and left me to grieve. But he was still the father of my children, the man I'd loved for most of my adult life. What happens to him if you catch him? He'll be arrested, charged with fraud, possibly more depending on what else we uncover. But Mrs. Thompson, these people he's involved with, they don't like loose ends. If they think he's a liability, faking his death won't be enough. They'll make it real. You think they'll kill him? I think he's in danger whether we find him or not. At least with us, he has a chance at witness protection if he cooperates. I looked at this federal agent, tried to gauge if he was lying too. But what choice did I have? I was already in too deep. "Okay," I said, "I'll help, but I do this my way, within reason. And my children stay out of this. They don't know their father is alive, and I want to keep it that way until I understand what's happening." Agreed. If you're feeling that sense of vertigo when everything you thought was solid turns liquid, when the person you trusted most becomes a stranger, tap that subscribe button, because we're just getting started on this journey into deception. I flew to Savannah with Agent Cole and his partner, Agent Rita Martinez, a Latina woman who looked like she could bench press me but had kind eyes. They'd booked us into a resort near Hilton Head, set up surveillance equipment in my room, gave me a panic button disguised as a key fob. "We'll be right next door," Agent Martinez said. "You're never alone." But I felt alone. Completely, utterly alone. The next morning I drove to the golf course Marcus had loved. Sea Pines Resort, exclusive, expensive, the kind of place we'd saved for months to afford for that one weekend. If he was starting a new life with stolen money, this is where he'd come. I dressed carefully. The sundress Marcus had always said I looked beautiful in, the earrings he'd given me for our anniversary, perfume he'd recognize. If I found him, I wanted him to see exactly who he'd thrown away. The clubhouse was busy with morning golfers. I scanned faces looking for Marcus, but also looking for anyone who might be watching me. Agent Cole had given me a photo of other suspects in the fraud ring. I memorized their faces. Then I saw him, not Marcus, but Jerome, his cousin, the one who was supposed to be on the fishing trip but got food poisoning. He was at the bar, drinking orange juice, checking his phone. Jerome, who'd been Marcus's best friend since childhood. Jerome, who was at every family dinner, every birthday, who was Malik's godfather. Jerome, who'd cried at Marcus's memorial service like his heart was broken. I walked over, letting my anger override my fear. Jerome. He looked up, and I saw it all in his eyes. Guilt, fear, resignation. He knew that I knew. "Rhonda, what are you doing here?" Looking for my dead husband. Have you seen him? He glanced around nervously. Not here, please. Then where? Meet me at the beach parking lot in an hour. South End. Come alone. Why should I trust you? Because I'm the only one who can keep you alive now that you know. He left, and I saw him make a phone call as he walked away. Warning Marcus, or warning someone else? I texted Agent Cole about the meeting, ignored his response telling me not to go, and an hour later I was at the beach parking lot. Jerome was there, standing by a rental car, looking older than his 48 years. He's going to be so pissed I'm talking to you, he said. Where is he? First, you need to understand something. Marcus didn't want this, any of it. They forced him. Who's they? People you don't want to know about. People who own judges and cops and politicians. Marcus saw something he shouldn't have, and they've been using it as leverage ever since. What did he see? Jerome looked around again, then pulled out his phone. Showed me a photo. It was grainy, taken at night, but I could make out figures around what looked like a body. 3 years ago, Marcus was leaving a school board meeting late. He saw them dumping a body behind the school. Took this photo before he realized what he was doing. They saw him. Who was the body? A journalist who'd been investigating corruption in the school system. Marcus was going to go to the police, but they got to him first. Showed him pictures of you, of Zara and Malik. Said if he didn't cooperate, you'd all end up like the journalist. I stared at the photo, trying to reconcile this with the Marcus who'd come home that night 3 years ago. He'd seemed normal, maybe a little tired. We'd watched TV, made love, planned our weekend. All while carrying this secret. So he helped them steal money? He did what they told him. Moved money, created fake records, looked the other way. But last month, the FBI started sniffing around. The organization decided Marcus was a liability. They were going to kill him, make it look like a suicide. Despondent principal, stressed about corruption charges, takes his own life. So he faked his death first. It was the only way. If he was dead, they'd leave you and the kids alone. If he ran, they'd use you as leverage to bring him back. But he's not dead. And now I know. Jerome's face was grim. Yeah, and now they know you know. Rhonda, you need to leave. Tonight. Take the kids and disappear. I can't just disappear. I have a life, a job, the kids have school. None of that matters if you're dead. The FBI is protecting me. Jerome laughed bitterly. The FBI? You think they care about you? You're bait to them. They want Marcus to surface so they can arrest him, make him testify. They don't care if you get caught in the crossfire. Maybe he was right. But what choice did I have? Where is Marcus? I asked again. Jerome hesitated then. He's here, on the island. But Rhonda, if you see him, if you talk to him, there's no going back. They'll know. They'll come for both of you. I'll take that chance. He wrote something on a piece of paper, handed it to me. An address. He's going by Malcolm Price now. Has a whole new identity. He's different, Rhonda. The stress, the fear, it's changed him. Does he know I'm here? Not yet. But he will soon. This island has eyes everywhere. Jerome started to leave, then turned back. For what it's worth, he never stopped loving you. Everything he did, right or wrong, was to protect you and the kids. That's not love, I said. That's control. The address was for a condo complex on the north end of the island. Expensive, gated, the kind of place where people don't ask questions if you pay in cash. I drove by first, noting the security cameras, the guard booth, the high walls. Getting in wouldn't be easy. I called Agent Cole, told him about my conversation with Jerome. We need to move now, he said. If your husband is there, we can arrest him before the organization knows we're coming. Give me 1 hour, I said. Let me talk to him first. Mrs. Thompson, 1 hour. I deserve that much. I hung up before he could argue. Getting into the complex was easier than expected. I told the guard I was visiting Malcolm Price in Unit 47B, and he waved me through. Marcus had put me on a list. He'd been expecting me, or hoping for me, or maybe dreading me. The condo was on the 4th floor, overlooking the ocean. I could hear music from inside. Jazz, the same playlist we used to listen to on Sunday mornings. My hand shook as I knocked. The door opened, and there he was. Marcus. Alive. Thinner, wearing clothes I'd never seen before, his head shaved bald instead of his usual low fade. But those eyes, Those were the eyes I'd fallen in love with at 22. Rhonda, Marcus. We stood there, 26 years of marriage reduced to silence. Then he stepped aside, let me in. The condo was furnished, but impersonal, like a high-end hotel. No photos, no personal touches. Nothing that said Marcus Thompson lived here. Because he didn't. Malcolm Price did. "You want something to drink?" he asked, like I was a casual visitor. "I want the truth." He sat heavily on the couch, suddenly looking all of his 49 years and then some. "Jerome told you?" "Some of it. Tell me the rest." So he did. For an hour he talked. About that night 3 years ago, about the body, the threats, the slow descent into criminality, about skimming money not for the organization but for his escape plan, knowing eventually they'd turn on him. About the fake death, arranged through Craig Hoffman for $100,000. "I was going to stay dead," he said. "Give you and the kids a clean break, life insurance money, freedom from my mistakes. The insurance won't pay out without a body. I know. I set up accounts for you, for the kids. Clean money from before all this started. About $300,000 total. It's not enough, but it would help. I don't want your money. I want my husband back. That man is gone, Rhonda. Has been for 3 years. I studied him, this stranger wearing my husband's face. So what now? You just live here as Malcolm Price forever?" That was the plan. Until you showed up. He looked at me with something like the old Marcus. "I should have known you'd figure it out. You always were smarter than me. The FBI knows you're here." His face went pale. "How long?" "They'll be here within the hour." He stood, started pacing. "I have to run. I have to—" "No." I stood too, blocked his path. "You're going to turn yourself in. You're going to testify against these people. You're going to try to make this right. They'll kill me. They'll kill you anyway if you run. At least with the FBI, you have a chance. Witness protection. What about you? The kids? We'll survive. We've been surviving thinking you were dead. We can survive knowing you're in prison." He reached for me, and for a moment I let him hold me. He still smelled the same, still felt the same, but everything was different. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I'm so sorry." "I know." The FBI arrived exactly an hour later. Marcus didn't resist, didn't run. He walked out in handcuffs with his head high, and I saw a glimpse of the man he used to be. Agent Cole stayed behind. "You did the right thing." "Did I?" "My children are about to learn their father is alive and a criminal. They're also going to learn their mother is brave enough to do the right thing, even when it hurts." The next few days were a blur. Marcus's arrest made national news. Dead principal arrested in multi-million-dollar fraud scheme. Our photos were everywhere. Zara called, hysterical. Malik flew in from Chicago, furious. Both felt betrayed not just by their father, but by me for not telling them immediately. "You let us grieve him," Zara screamed. "You let us mourn someone who wasn't even dead." I had to be sure, and I had to keep you safe. Safe from what? From Dad? How could I explain that yes, in a way, I was protecting them from their father? From the choices he'd made, the danger he'd brought into our lives? The organization Marcus had been involved with started unraveling. His testimony led to dozens of arrests, including 2 city councilmen, a police captain, and 3 other school administrators. The corruption went deep, millions stolen from schools across the city. Craig Hoffman was arrested trying to flee to Costa Rica. He'd helped 18 people fake their deaths over the past decade. Marcus's watch, the one that started this whole unraveling, had been his payment. Jerome was arrested as an accomplice, but got a plea deal for his cooperation. He'd been caught up in it trying to help Marcus, not for the money, but out of misguided loyalty. The trial was set for 6 months out. Marcus was held without bail, considered a flight risk for obvious reasons. I visited him once, in federal detention. "How are the kids?" he asked, looking older in his orange jumpsuit. "Angry, hurt, confused." "And you?" "All of that and more. I never meant for this to happen. You made choices, Marcus. Every day for 3 years, you chose to lie to us. To protect you. No, to protect yourself. If you'd gone to the police that night, none of this would have happened. They would have killed you all. Maybe. Or maybe the police would have protected us, caught them. We'll never know because you didn't give us that chance." He had no answer for that. The life insurance company sued to recover the payout I'd received. Even though Marcus wasn't actually dead, they'd paid out based on fraudulent claims. I had to return the $800,000, money I'd already used to pay off the mortgage and set aside for the kids' education. We had to sell the house to pay it back. I moved into a 2-bedroom apartment in Silver Spring with Zara. Malik stayed in Chicago, threw himself into his residency, barely spoke to either of us. Our family, already broken by fake death, shattered completely with resurrection. The school system conducted an audit of every transaction Marcus had approved. Parents were furious, teachers felt betrayed, students were confused. The man who'd given inspirational speeches at graduation, who'd fought for funding for arts programs, who'd known every student's name, he'd been stealing from them all along. I went back to teaching, but it was awkward. Everyone knew. Whispers followed me down the hallways. Some colleagues were supportive, others suspicious. Had I really not known? Was I involved too? My principal called me in one day. "Rhonda, I have to ask. Given everything, maybe a fresh start would be good? Another school, maybe another district? Are you firing me?" "No, but your presence here is disruptive." 20 years at Wilson High, and I was being pushed out because of Marcus's crimes. I transferred to a school in Montgomery County, longer commute but fewer people who knew my story. Started using my maiden name again professionally. Ms. Parker, not Mrs. Thompson. 6 months later, the trial began. I had to testify, describe our marriage, our life, the discovery of his deception. The prosecutor walked me through 26 years, looking for signs I'd missed, moments that might have revealed the truth. "Did you ever suspect your husband was involved in criminal activity?" "No." Looking back, were there signs? Maybe. Late nights, stress, secret phone calls. But I thought it was work pressure. I trusted him. "Do you still?" I looked at Marcus sitting at the defense table. He'd lost more weight, his suit hanging loose. He looked defeated. "No," I said. "I don't trust him. I don't know him. The man I married wouldn't have done these things. That man is dead. He actually did die 3 years ago when he chose crime over truth." Marcus was convicted on all charges. 25 years federal prison, possibility of parole in 15 with good behavior. The organization he'd testified against got worse. Life sentences for the murders they'd committed, including that journalist whose body started it all. At sentencing, Marcus spoke. "I apologize to my family, to the students of Dunbar High School, to the taxpayers who trusted me with their money and their children's futures. I made terrible choices out of fear, and those choices destroyed everything I claimed to value. I don't ask for forgiveness, just for understanding that fear can make cowards of us all." The judge, an elderly black woman who'd seen too much, wasn't moved. "Mr. Thompson, you held a position of sacred trust. Those children looked up to you. Their parents trusted you. Your community believed in you. You didn't just steal money. You stole hope, trust, faith in institutions that are already fragile in our community. Your fear doesn't excuse your betrayal." As they led Marcus away, he looked at me one last time, mouthed, "I love you." I didn't respond. Couldn't. Outside the courthouse, reporters shouted questions. Zara held my hand on one side, Malik on the other. He'd finally come home, finally started to forgive me, if not his father. "Mrs. Thompson, how does it feel to see your husband go to prison? Will you wait for him? Did you suspect anything?" We pushed through without answering. There were no good answers anyway. That night, we had dinner at Camille's house. My sister had been my rock through everything, never judging, always supporting. "So what now?" she asked. "Now we rebuild," I said. "Again. For real this time." "You could divorce him," Malik suggested. "Clean break." "I will, but not yet. Let him serve some time first. Understand what he's lost." "That's cold, Mom," Zara said, but with admiration. "Maybe. Or maybe it's just practical. I've learned to be practical." A year passed. Then 2. I divorced Marcus quietly. No drama. Just paperwork. Started dating tentatively. A professor from Georgetown I met at a book club. A good man who knew my history and didn't care. Zara graduated from Howard. Got a job at a nonprofit that audits government spending. "Someone needs to watch the watchers," she said. Malik finished his residency. started a practice in Chicago, met a nice girl who made him laugh again. I still teach, still live in that apartment in Silver Spring, still use my maiden name. The story follows me, but doesn't define me anymore. Marcus writes sometimes. I don't open the letters, just mark them, return to sender. Jerome wrote once, apologizing again, explaining more. I read that one, then threw it away. Some stories don't need epilogues. 3 years after that wake, I was back in Camille's living room for Thanksgiving. The family gathered, new additions and old stalwarts, children playing, adults arguing about politics and sports. Normal, beautiful chaos. Shayla, my niece who'd noticed my distress at Marcus's wake, sat beside me. Aunt Rhonda, do you ever regret searching for the truth? I thought about it. No. Living a lie, even a comfortable one, isn't living. The truth hurt, destroyed everything I thought I knew, but at least now I'm building on solid ground. Would you do it again, knowing what you know now? Yes, because the alternative was being complicit in his crimes, even unknowingly. My students, those kids at Dunbar who deserved better. I couldn't face them knowing I'd chosen comfortable lies over difficult truths. That night, I looked through old photos, not with nostalgia, but with curiosity, looking for signs I'd missed, moments when the mask might have slipped. But Marcus had been good at his performance, or maybe I'd been good at not looking too closely. There was one photo from that golf weekend in Hilton Head 3 years ago. Marcus on the course, smiling, relaxed. But now I could see it. The tightness around his eyes, the forced quality of his smile. He'd already seen the body by then, was already trapped. But he'd still gone golfing, still pretended everything was fine. That's what haunts me most. Not the betrayal, not the crimes, not even the fake death. It's the pretending. Every day for 3 years, he'd looked me in the eye and pretended to be the man I married. Every "I love you" was tainted, every kiss a lie, every moment together a performance. If you've stayed with me through this entire story, through the discovery and deception and ultimate revelation, then subscribe and share, because stories like this need to be heard, need to serve as warnings that sometimes the people we trust most are the best at hiding their true selves. 5 years have passed now since I saw that watch on Craig Hoffman's wrist. 5 years since my dead husband came back to life, only to disappear into federal prison. The sensation has died down, replaced by other scandals, other betrayals. But the lessons remain. I learned that love isn't enough if it's not paired with truth, that protection based on lies is just another form of control, that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is look closely at the life you've built and be willing to tear it down if the foundation is rotten. Marcus has 12 more years before he's eligible for parole. He'll be 64, our children will be in their 40s, maybe with children of their own. Will he try to reconnect? Will they let him? I don't know, and it's not my decision to make. I'm 53 now, teaching kids not much younger than my own, living a smaller but more honest life. I volunteer with an organization that helps families of white-collar criminals, people like me who discovered their lives were built on lies. We call ourselves the Awakened, those who woke up to difficult truths and chose to face them. Last week, one of the women in my support group asked how you ever trust again after such betrayal. You don't, I told her. Not the same way. You trust with your eyes open, with boundaries, with the understanding that everyone is capable of deception. It's not cynical, it's realistic. And it's still possible to love, to build relationships, to be happy, just differently. She nodded, understanding. We all understand. Those of us who've had our lives exploded by someone else's secrets. Sometimes I dream about that morning at Marcus's wake, seeing that watch, that moment when everything shifted. In the dreams, I sometimes don't notice it, just continue with the funeral, bury an empty coffin, move on with my life never knowing. I wake from those dreams grateful for that observant moment, for the phone call that followed, for the painful truth that set me free. Craig Hoffman is in prison too, 8 years for his role in various frauds. He lost the watch, along with his freedom. I sometimes wonder what happened to it, that Omega Seamaster with my inscription of love. Evidence locker, probably. gathering dust with other remnants of shattered lives. The boat that exploded was recovered eventually, raised from the ocean floor. No body, of course, but they found Marcus's wallet, keys, wedding ring, all the things he'd left behind to sell his death. I got the ring back after the trial, that simple gold band I'd placed on his finger 26 years ago. I sold it, donated the money to Dunbar High School's scholarship fund. Something good from something corrupted. Detective Brennan called last month. Another case, another faked death, another spouse looking for truth. She wanted to know if I'd speak to the woman, share my experience. Tell her the truth won't make her feel better, I said. Tell her it will destroy everything she thought she knew. Tell her friends will choose sides, family will judge, strangers will gossip. Tell her all of that. Then tell her to search anyway, because living in a lie is worse than facing the truth. The woman called me after she found her husband living in Mexico with his secretary and their 2 children she never knew existed. She was devastated, but grateful. At least now I know, she said. At least now I can stop wondering what I did wrong. You didn't do anything wrong, I told her. Trusting your spouse isn't wrong. They're the ones who were wrong for betraying that trust. It's become my mission, in a way, helping others navigate the destruction of discovered deception. I've written a book about it, started a podcast, speak at conferences. When Death is a Lie, a memoir, comes out next month. Marcus won't get any proceeds. I made sure of that legally. Malik thinks I'm dwelling on the past. Mom, you need to move on completely, not relive this through other people's stories. But Zara understands. You're taking pain and turning it into purpose. Dad would actually be proud of that. I don't care what he'd be proud of, I said, though that's not entirely true. 26 years of caring doesn't just evaporate, even when it should. My boyfriend James, we've been together 2 years now, understands my complicated feelings about Marcus. You can hate what he did and still mourn who you thought he was, he said once. Those aren't contradictory feelings. James' wife died of cancer, real death, with a body and a grave and closure. He envies and pities me in equal measure. At least I got to say goodbye, he said. You had goodbye stolen from you twice, once by fake death, once by the revelation of who he really was. The strangest part of all of this? I still wear my wedding ring sometimes. Not because I'm still married to Marcus. That ended with the divorce. But because I was married to someone for 26 years. That someone turned out to be largely fictional, but my experience of the marriage was real. My commitment was real. My love, naive as it was real. The ring reminds me that I'm capable of that kind of love, that kind of commitment. It also reminds me to look closer, ask questions, trust, but verify. Last week was the anniversary of Marcus's fake death. July 15th. I still mark it, not sure what I'm commemorating. The death of innocence, the beginning of truth, the end of one life and the start of another. I went to the beach at Sandy Point, not far from where Marcus supposedly died. The water was calm, families playing, couples walking hand in hand. Normal life happening all around while I stood there contemplating how nothing is as solid as it seems. My phone rang. Unknown Massachusetts number. My heart still races when I see that area code. Mrs. Thompson? This is Detective Brennan. It's Ms. Parker now. Right, sorry. I wanted to let you know Craig Hoffman is being released early. Good behavior. He'll be out next month. Thanks for telling me. There's more. He's been talking to a journalist, planning to write a book about his career helping people disappear. Your husband's case would be a significant chapter. Another violation, another exposure of our pain for public consumption. Can I stop it? Not legally. Freedom of speech. After she hung up, I stood there watching the waves, thinking about cycles of revelation and pain that never quite end. Then I threw my phone as far as I could into the ocean. I immediately regretted it. That was expensive and had all my contacts. But for a moment, the gesture felt necessary, cutting one more tie to that morning when it rang with news that my husband wasn't dead. A teenager on the beach saw me throw it, looked at me with concern. You okay, ma'am? Yes, I said, and meant it, just letting go of something I should have released a long time ago. I drove home phoneless, feeling strangely free. Let Craig Hoffman tell his story. Let the world judge. Let Marcus rot in prison, or find redemption or whatever comes next for him. None of it touches me anymore. That evening, Zara helped me get a new phone, restore my contacts from the cloud. Modern problems require modern solutions. Mom, you know you can't actually throw your problems in the ocean, right? I know, but sometimes you need the gesture. She hugged me. I love you, even when you're being dramatic. Learned from the best, I said, thinking of Marcus and his ultimate dramatic gesture, faking his own death rather than facing truth. As I write this, it's late, and I'm in my small apartment that's become home. No lies hidden in these walls, no secret phones or false passports or stolen money. Just me, my truth, my story. Tomorrow I teach Act 3 of Othello to my sophomores. We'll discuss how Iago's deceptions unravel, how truth always surfaces, how jealousy and lies destroy more than just their intended victims. They'll think it's just literature, distant and safe. But I know better. I know that Iagos walk among us, wearing familiar faces, sharing our beds, raising our children. They're not always evil, sometimes just weak, afraid, trapped by their own choices. But the damage they cause is the same. Marcus called from prison yesterday. First time in 2 years. I didn't accept the charges, but the automated system played his voice, saying his name for identification. Marcus Thompson, he said, and even those 2 words carried weight. Regret, maybe, or just exhaustion. I wonder if he still thinks of himself as Marcus Thompson, or if he's become Malcolm Price in his mind. I wonder if he regrets the fake death more than the crimes that necessitated it. I wonder if he ever really loved me, or if that was performance too. But wondering doesn't change anything. The truth, terrible as it was, set me free. Free from a marriage built on lies, free from a life that was more fiction than fact, free to rebuild on solid ground. That watch started everything. That Omega Seamaster catching light on a stranger's wrist at my husband's wake. Such a small thing to unravel such a large deception. But that's how truth works sometimes. It only needs the tiniest crack to flood in and wash away years of carefully constructed lies. If Marcus had been more careful, if Craig Hoffman hadn't worn that watch, if I hadn't been looking at just that moment, would Marcus still be dead? Would I still be grieving a fiction? Would those stolen millions still be flowing from schools that desperately need them? Maybe, probably. But I did see it. I did question it. I did search for truth even when everyone, including part of me, wanted to leave it buried with Marcus's supposed body in the Atlantic. That's my victory. Not that I discovered the truth, but that I chose to look for it. That when comfortable lies were available, I chose difficult truths. That when everyone said let it go, move on, don't ask questions, I asked anyway. The watch was just the beginning. The phone call was just confirmation. The real story was in the choosing. Choosing truth over comfort. Choosing justice over peace. Choosing to see clearly even when the view was devastating. Marcus is alive in federal prison. I'm alive in my small apartment. Our children are alive in their own lives, building futures on foundations of truth rather than lies. We're all alive, just differently than we planned. And that watch, that beautiful damned watch that started everything, I hope it's been destroyed, melted down, erased. But I'm grateful it existed, grateful Craig Hoffman was vain enough to wear it, grateful I was observant enough to notice. Because that watch saved me from a life of lies. It saved our children from inheriting deception. It saved those schools from continued theft. It saved other families from whatever Marcus and his organization would have done next. A watch on a stranger's wrist at a wake. Such a small thing. Such a massive revelation. Such is the power of truth. It only needs the smallest opening to destroy the largest lies. And that's the real story. Not that my husband faked his death, but that truth refused to stay buried. Not that I discovered his deception, but that deception always discovers itself eventually. Marcus thought he could control the narrative by dying. Instead, he just delayed the inevitable revelation. Truth, like water, always finds its way. And I'll never stop being grateful for that moment at the wake, that watch catching the light, that phone ringing with confirmation of what my heart suddenly knew, that nothing was as it seemed, and everything was about to change. That's my story. That's my truth. That's my freedom.